Even when the world is in the midst of the coronavirus outbreak, we see that bashing the DPRK, attacking it, doesn't take a vacation. Now, a new article in the Diplomat suggests that the DPRK acknowledging that the coronavirus exists is like a major development. Of course, this is complete and utter nonsense, purely fabricated to attack the country, as if previous viral outbreaks were not mentioned either. Now, the article states that while almost all countries in East Asia are being affected by the virus with consequences for swine herds, etc., talking specifically about the previous swine flu, the DPRK remains silent about its domestic situations. But then the article's writer says that it did report some damages to the World Organization for Animal Health. So they remained silent except for the time when they reported damages. So that he kind of completely contradicted himself. Now, they did admit that they were struggling to contain the spread of the virus, the new coronavirus, and that apparently the scale of the damage to the people in the world could be a huge embarrassment for the country. Exactly what damage? They haven't said whether there is or isn't any infections. And if there were, they would report them. So I don't know what he's talking about here. And they're saying that this would be an embarrassment for the leader Kim Jong-un, who's held up as a godlike figure by the official media, which is kind of complete nonsense. It doesn't say that at all. In fact, you can find large amounts, upwards, I believe, I don't remember what the exact numbers were, but people who literally believe God sent Donald Trump to be president in America. So that's a bit of a projection on his part. Now, he reports that Pyongyang did decide to impose a 1-month quarantine and medical observation period on newly arriving foreigners to prevent the spread of the new coronavirus. Okay, that's a reasonable safety precaution, because we do have to keep in mind that the DPRK is not a first world country. It's a victim of imperialism, particularly the United States and the UK, which blockade them from buying medical supplies and economically developing. This little fact just seems to completely vacate the minds of people like this, which are just attacking the country. The DPRK is still a third world country, but their healthcare system is the envy of the third world. But does this mean they're fully prepared to take a full-on outbreak the way China is? No, they're not, because they don't have the kind of resources that China has. So, taking extra steps to prevent an infection from happening to begin with makes a lot of sense. And try explaining that to the writer of the article. Other countries also canceled flights between Pyongyang and Beijing, banned Chinese tourists from entering the north, and temporarily banned foreigners from traveling to China. I don't know how the DPRK would have any power to prevent foreigners from traveling to other countries. I don't see how that's even possible, something that you could even work out. That doesn't even seem to make any sense. As a state media outlets are ramping up their coverage to publicize ways to prevent the virus, check for symptoms, and obtain treatment. Perfectly reasonable measures that any country would take in a situation like this. Although interestingly, I haven't really seen a lot of that here in Canada. I think that they pretty much just tell us, the regular flu prevention to try to prevent it from spreading. But there isn't any real concern that that the coronavirus would spread that much here, although it certainly is possible. Now, they said the state-run Korean Central Television, quoted health experts as saying is that the coronavirus, which originated in Wuhan, China, has completely different characteristics from previous viruses. KCTV reported the disease is causing respiratory complications, including pneumonia and possibly resulting in kidney failure and death. But I love how they always take the time to say the state-run Korean Central Television. Well, of course, all the media is run by the government. What's the point of even mentioning that it's state-run? However, people like this will deliberately ignore when other countries report something and it's being reported by the state media. Yonhap is run by the state in the South, but nobody ever calls it the state-run media in the South. It's interesting that these little things that they always have to put in there that don't necessarily make sense. This is an article by the Diplomat and by Tae-jun Kang, who probably funded by the CIA. So CIA funded the Diplomat, and Tae-jun Kang wrote this article on the DPRK. So it's very interesting. The crux of the article, the point that they're trying to make, is that by the DPRK admitting that there's a threat of the coronavirus in the country, is a black eye on the country somehow, and that it's significant because previously they didn't report the African swine flu, except that they did, and did report damages, completely contradicting himself. So basically the foundation of his argument is claiming that the DPRK doesn't report things like this, except when it did, which kind of makes this whole article complete and utter nonsense. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.